So do you remember this toy? Maybe you saw it as a kid. It's getting kind of old now. It's called the Magic Etch-a-Sketch screen. So you would use these two dials with your two fingers, and you would move one of them would move the cursor up, the other one would move the cursor over, and you would use it to draw pictures on the Etch-a-Sketch screen. So what we're going to do today is an activity that is to help you with the vocabulary of the waves and sound and light. I wrote a story. Yes, believe it or not, I wrote this story. And what I want you to do is I want you to draw the story as I'm telling it to you. So what you're going to do is take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, one of these blank pages, and I want you to hot dog fold it once. So fold it in half this way. Then you're going to hamburger fold it once this way. And then hamburger fold it again one more time this way. Okay, so you should have a small square here. Then whenever you unfold it, you have a sheet that has 8 boxes on it because there are going to be 8 parts to the story. And as I tell each part, you're going to draw the picture or illustrate it. So you're going to be the illustrator, I'm going to be the author, and we're going to go through with that from that way. And remember, the whole idea of this is to help you understand the vocabulary better that goes along with the waves and sound and light. So here we go. There once was a man and a woman who lived in Chicago. Tran S. Verse lived in a condo at the top of the Crest skyscraper, and every day he would ride the elevator down to the Trough subway line to get to work, and then return at the end of the day to go back to the condo. So again, remember, you're drawing, you're illustrating this, and I put in bold the words that are the vocab words, so you can kind of see, like, these are the words that I want you to particularly focus on as you're drawing this picture. So I might draw a condo where I have maybe, here is the top of my condo at the Crest skyscraper, and I'm going to put Crest at the top of this, and I'm going to have Tran S. Verse up here. He gets in the elevator and he goes all the way down here into the ground and down in here into the Trough subway line. Trough. Maybe that's going to be my illustration for the first one. So you can see the beginning of where these pictures are going to go on. Now, you'll notice that I'm not super artistic. I'm not expecting you to be either. If you want to get into it, absolutely. Put color, take forever to draw your picture, but I'm not expecting more than stick figures. But I know that each of you can at least draw stick figures. Okay, so I'll give a moment, pause the video if you need to, and I want you to take that. So transverse represent as the up and down, crest is the peak, trough is the bottom, and somehow you're illustrating that picture. Okay, number 2. His friend, Tran S. Verse, and co-worker, Longitudinal, lived in one of the suburbs and traveled back and forth to the city. She could make it to work in 30 minutes if the traffic had a rarefaction, but if there was a compression, it would take her up to 90 minutes. So his friend and coworker, longitudinal, this is the other kind of wave. It's a wave that goes back and forth instead of up and down. So a transverse wave, notice back here, it goes up and down, the crest and the trough. A longitudinal wave goes back and forth, and where those compressions happen, the molecules are pushed together as if there were more traffic at that point. And the rarefaction is where the molecules are further apart, as if there were less traffic at that point. So take a moment to draw the next caption or illustration that is of longitudinal heading into Chicago on maybe an expressway, and there's the express lane that doesn't have very many cars in it, and there's the not express lane that has a whole ton of traffic in it and everyone's backed up. Just one possible idea to illustrate that one. I'll give you a couple moments, and or you can pause the video to draw this illustration. Okay, number 3. Their job was to create energy bundles at the power plant Amplitude And these bundles were a new source of energy called water articulated bicatenation entropic stepification, or waves for short. Amplitude made sure that they were top secret. So the power plant that they work at is called Amplitude. They're creating these new bundles of energy, which is called a wave. And then they make sure that this new bundle is top secret. I'll give you a moment to illustrate this one and or pause the video. Okay, now what would our story be? We've introduced our good guys. We've set up the scene, and now we have to do what? Gotta introduce the bad guy. Amplitude had one enemy, destructive interference, who would stop at nothing to find out how he could sabotage the plan. And there wasn't anything that he wouldn't do to cause all the waves to cancel out. Get it? Destructive interference. He would frequently send pulses into the factory to try and destroy it. So now you're drawing destructive interference. What does he look like? Does he have a cape? Does he have a not a cape? Does he have a big emblem on his chest? Does he not? Is he like all in black? What does destructive interference look like? I'll give you a moment to draw him in number 4. Moving on to number 5, we need a little bit of conflict now. So Transverse had been working on a new pulse deflector called the Wavelength, and one day Longitudinal saw a pulse coming through the medium grass toward the plant. She grabbed Transverse and the Wavelength machine, and together they hit the pulse with everything they had, because destructive interference is trying to pulse and destroy the Amplitude factory. And Transverse and Longitudinal take their Wavelength machine and they shoot that wave through the medium, because that's what a wave travels through. And now you're drawing a picture of this in box number 5. Number 6. For a moment, it looked like the pulse was going to overtake them, but slowly the Wavelength machine worked and the pulse began heading back towards destructive interference. I sort of imagine at this point in the story is like the very ending of Harry Potter, where you have Lord Voldemort on one side and you have Harry Potter on the other, and they're like shooting their different colored light beams at each other, and the beams are going back and forth and back and forth. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? This is sort of what's going on right here. We have destructive interference on one side, and we have longitudinal and transverse, and all this explosion happening in the middle. So this is number 6. That's what I picture. Maybe you picture it different, but that's what you're drawing. You're drawing what you picture in box number 6 here. Number 7, who's going to win? So the pulse slams right back into destructive and something miraculous happens. He realized he'd been wrong, promised to make it up to the company by increasing their wave sales and boosting their production, and changed his name to constructive interference. Something positive happened, right? So constructive because he's boosting their sales, increasing their production. Get it? Constructive. Yeah, anyway, you get the picture. So go ahead and draw that in number 7. And where would our story be without resolution? You already know that there are only 8 boxes, so we only have one more box to go. Transverse and longitudinal, what happened to our hero and heroine? They go on to become billionaires through their sale of waves, and they are currently working on a new technology called modern arc grappling networking electrons towards super spinification. I wonder what that technology would be. Either way, you're drawing this picture in box number 8. Now, the last thing that I want you to do is I want you to go back and make sure that all of the bolded words you've labeled in your boxes. Label what they are so that you can get a real quick visual of the cartoon that you drew and understand what each of those vocab word means. Now, if it was a word that was used again and again, like transverse, or longitudinal, you don't have to do it more than just the one time. But if it's like the first time you see those bold words, I want you to put that in there. So hopefully the story gives you sort of a foundation or a way to start thinking of what some of these words are. Remember, transverse is a wave that is going up and down, where the molecules are moving not in the same, like the wave is going this way, but the molecules are moving this way. Picture a slinky on the floor, like you're flipping a slinky and the wave is going through it that way, or a water wave. Longitudinal is a more like a sound wave, where like here are our molecules and the one molecule hits the next molecule, hits the next molecule. So the waves they're going this way, but the molecules are also going this way. And so that gives you sort of an idea of that. The wave moves through the medium. So the thing that the wave moves through is called a medium. Those are the vocab words that I want you to kind of latch onto and to understand. And hopefully this helped a little bit in order for you to do that.